Hello, you guys, and welcome back to the Cake Radio Show by CakeDive. I'm the CakeDive, and I hope you guys are doing well. I'm doing pretty good right now. I am happy that you guys have been loving these episodes. I'm glad that y'all tuning in. You know, welcome to the Baker Squad. I hope it had these new bakers. The Bakers, hope y'all like what y'all hearing with this podcast. And, if you're new here and you want to join the Bakers, be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel for and turn on those notifications. For more episodes of the podcast, follow us on YouTube at Cake Radio Show. Or if you want to listen to this podcast on your favorite podcast platforms, whether that's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Deezer, Cast FM, wherever you want to listen to this podcast on, listen to the Cake Radio Show on your favorite podcast platforms. Be sure to follow and give us a good rating. And yeah, enough about the soapbox. We gonna hop in and discuss the Challengers movie and the discourse that's been going on with that movie. I don't know if the discourse has been that strong because I've been seeing it kind of. I only started seeing it gain momentum Sunday, like the weekend once the box office totals came out. Challengers came out over the weekend. It opened to 15 million at the box office domestically. Number one top spot, and I've seen a lot of discourse, a lot of people trying to talk about, oh, like, was this film hot enough? Like, were these men attractive? Why was there not racial commentary? Is this movie a flop? Is this movie gonna make it to the Oscars conversation? And as someone who loves film, I mean, I am the founder and creative director over at CC and Ticket. After all, I am someone who interacts with people in the box office space, interacts with people like box office analysts. I interact with people who are in the award space, people who I know people and have the connections who have had these conversations. Not to say that, as someone for me who just simply loves film and loves film critique, has that much say on it compared to everybody else, but I've listened in and I've had conversations about the film the financial state of the film first of all, as well as used what I saw in the movie and had conversations with other people to see the I guess the emotional, the review side, the critique of the film, and I'm ready to just dig into it. So first of all, let's talk about the financials of it all first of all, because money makes the world go around. The film was like $50 million, 50, and it debuted to 15 million. So not great. It's not great. A lot of people are like, oh, like it's bomb, like it's a flop. I think it really the next couple of weeks is definitely going to have to depend on how that film performs. If it's as if it's front loaded, if the people are like, oh, like I only went to see it this weekend, I'm not trying to go see it again, or there's not like the word of mouth is not going to pick up, like, and it just keeps dropping weekend over weekend, then it's like, okay, this is going to get flop. But 50 million isn't a horrible budget, and 15 million opening weekend domestically. I believe that's more than what Bones and All, Luca Guadagnino's last film, like earned in its entire domestic run, because it was a limited release and like expansion rollout. So there's kind of that silver lining. And if you watch the film, if you've seen the film, you probably are aware that with Challengers that the budget probably wasn't. It was probably covered helpfully by the amount of product placement that was in the film. That's one of my critiques of the film. Like, one of the few critiques that I have of the film, personally, was the product placement, the runtime, and certain aspects of the script. The product placement was crazy because there was so many like brands and stuff that popped up in the film, and you can kind of clearly tell that this was like product placement. There was like an AG1 tie-in in like the one of the opening sequences of the movie, like one of the opening scenes of the movie. There was a Dunkin' Donuts cross promo ad of like a sandwich that was popping up. Adidas takes front and center stage with the tennis promotion. There is Oh, and Aston Martin, the car brand has their like product placement too. There is a lot of product placement in the movie that does take center stage at points, and which is kind of like it's eye rolling at points, but I do understand. Like, listen, you got to cover this budget somehow. You got to cover that budget somehow, and with the product placement that they use, I'm not really concerned that the budget that was covered is it's going to be too much of a loss. Like, I think they got it. Then you have and with the word of mouth, I think people are going to keep watching it. And I know, like, I've seen a lot of people on like film. Obviously, Twitter and social media does not always correlate to real life, but I have definitely heard people say that they've wanted to rewatch and see the movie over and over again, like it's been top of mind. So here's hoping that y'all stay true to y'all word and tune into that movie if y'all want it to be a hit. But we will see in the coming weeks how the film goes in terms of box office performance. Now let's get to the awards discussion of it. Some people, and when I see one of the people that made me want to jump and talk about the Oscars conversation was As Told by Kenya. That's one of my faves on YouTube and on Patreon. Love for Down Boots, but sometimes she'd be kind of losing me in the conversations. Now, she probably not going to listen to this, and I know she probably not going to take my opinion too lightly because, one, I am a Chloe Bailey stan. Well, not stan. I don't have no stan cards, but a fan of Chloe Bailey. And like most of the R&B girls, like I be defending the new girls like crazy. And she really be kind of whacking them and tugging on their wigs a little bit. But so there's that, and I also think that she, I don't think this podcast has had too much reach. But if she does listen to this, hey, how you doing? Love the videos, girl. But I saw on Twitter, because I do follow her privately on her Twitter account, that once she was talking about the box office performance, and that kind of made me like, I don't know. Like I get like the box office performance is weak. But at the end of the day, we have to be honest and realize that like the state of the box office right now is kind of rough, especially this year. They're a healthy box office. And I know I was supposed to jump into the awards conversation, but bear with me. I'm just rambling. Like, welcome me here, y'all. A healthy box office is supposed to be like every week or every couple of weeks, you're supposed to get a big blockbuster film, and you are going to have a healthy mix of smaller films too, so that people have variety. So majority of people obviously are going to go see the big blockbuster film, the superhero film, whatever it's going to be, the big budget blockbuster film. And then because everyone's going to go see that, it's going to trickle, there's going to be some trickle down economics, not no words to Reagan. This is going to be CakeDive trickle down economics, because it's the state of the box office in the film economy, right? There should be, because people are going to see the big film, they're also going to be hearing about the other smaller films that are going to be in the box office space too. So there's already going to be an audience of people who are going to go see the smaller films because they know about the smaller films and want to see it. But there's also going to be that handful of people who probably were trying to see the bigger box office film, but the showtime was sold out, or the showtime wasn't going to work and they wanted to see it on a specific day, so maybe they're going to end up see the smaller movie. Usually that is what a healthy box office looks like on paper, and then obviously the numbers are supposed to match. With this year, because of the strikes and because of the delays in production that have still been hit because of the pandemic, this year looks really weak, in all honesty, for film output. There's not that many blockbusters releasing in a month, and there's a lot of smaller movies trying to fill up the spot. And like that, it would be a good thing if the films were taking the spot. Like if Challengers hit number one, and that's great, but it would be one thing if it was like doing higher numbers than what it ended up doing. But it's the fact that these smaller movies are hitting number one, and at most that the number one spot is doing like what 30 million at most, maybe even 50 on a good day. But usually it's like 20, 15, 30. Like it's lower numbers for the box office, and that's not healthy. And the girls are talking about, like, some of the girls be like, oh, like streaming is siphoning, or like it's gonna kill the theaters. Streaming is gonna do this. Like, streaming is not in a healthy space either. Streaming is not sustainable. Streaming is raising, like, it has so many costs they're trying to cut. They're raising prices like crazy on everybody, because I know y'all Netflix bills just went up twice, and Peacock just raised their prices too. Everybody's raising their prices. Everybody's doing the cutting down on password sharing. Streaming is not in a good place either, and we're kind of at the point in which, with theaters, people are going to go to theaters to see the films that they want to see, and then there's going to be the trickle down. They want to see good movies first of all, and then there's gonna they want to see the good blockbusters, and then they're gonna trickle down and see everything else. This year's looking rough because, again, it's only been a lot of smaller films, a lot of horror films too, dominating the space. So I think it's given similar to what the post pandemic reopening of theaters looked like in terms of performance, low key. And I can again touch on that. Challenger should not have been a number one movie. Again, it's like, it's good that it was number one, but again, in a healthy box office, it would not have been number one, and that would have been a good thing. And then we get to the awards conversation, because I know I was supposed to get on that earlier. A lot of people were talking about, like, oh, like, they released this film, well, as told by Kenya. Kenya touched on this and said that this is a film that's releasing early in the year. I don't know if this is going to have traction by the time we going to get to the end, when we get to the real awards conversations. Man, I don't think we need to worry about that, because there's not too many movies releasing this year. Like, we got to realize that there is, this year for movies is very light compared to where it was last year and what it's looking like for next year. So similar things could probably be said about something like Dune, in which is like, oh, like, is Dune Part 2 gonna make it to the awards race because it released earlier in the year? It's a blockbuster, so of course it's probably gonna make its rounds, but because there aren't a lot of films coming out this year, and there aren't a lot of films that are gonna have a lot of big conversation, films like Dune, and I think smaller films like Challengers, are going to eventually come back and have their role and have their conversations within the awards conversation. And again, it's largely just because there aren't that many films coming out this year, and there aren't that many films that are going to have awards buzz like this is going to have. And Challengers, I think, is going to get the push. Amazon will probably push the film like crazy because they own MGM. They're going to push the film like crazy when it comes to the awards conversation, because again, like, this is very much an awards buzzy film that they just released in dirt like this month, because again, they didn't have that much output. They can't release too much this year because of the strikes. So I think it will probably end up in the awards conversation, and probably will snag some awards. Now, will it be the Zendaya gets an Oscar type conversation? I could see her getting a nomination for this, but I also see her getting nominations for Dune. So it's really gonna be a race of, oh, like, which one would she win? And if she get, like, I don't see her getting snubbed for either of these films. I think she will get a nomination in some way for either Dune or for Challengers. It's just gonna be a question of which one will she get a firm nomination for, and which one will she win, if she does win. Because it's time. I think a win is coming. My eyes see Zendaya. But there is that with that sort of financial and awards commentary. Now we get to the film itself. I've been seeing people talk about, the lack of representation in the film, and whether or not there should have been racial commentary about Tashi's character being a black tennis player. And on one hand, I agree. I'm like, there definitely should be some commentary, but I don't think the team that was involved with this film would have been right in having those conversations, because I don't think they would have been as well done. I think that if they did try to shoehorn that in, I feel like it would not have been substantial enough to the point in which people would be having commentary and think pieces about, oh, like, how challengers failed to have that conversation properly, or how, like, it underperformed in talking about those things. So it's either it's kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't, low key. But again, I'm not knocking the fact that those conversations are valid, especially because tennis is a predominantly white sport, and in real life, not in the movies, we see how those conversations are held. Like, we've seen the things with the Williams sisters, Venus and Serena. We've had the things with, like, Naomi Osaka and those conversations like that. We've seen how the tennis field, a predominantly white sport, treats people of color, especially black tennis players. We've seen those things happen before. So they definitely could have, I think they definitely could have somehow weaseled it in somehow. But again, I don't think this was the film to really be the vessel for that. And I question if they did do that, if it would have been done right, considering, the team that's been behind it. And I'm not trying to shade, Zendaya. I'm not trying to shade Luca Guadagnino, because I think Luca Guadagnino is like he's a great director, first of all. But again, I just don't think that all of their previous works have not shown that they've had the range for that, or if they're really interested in having those conversations. I think we just need to somehow get a black director and some black talent to make a black tennis film, and I think that would be interesting. Like that, I think that would be cute boots, and I think that also kind of raises the conversation about what the representation and the lack thereof of representation of black people in Hollywood right now and in black film. Because again, I touched on this, the fact that streaming is looking rough, like they're doing cost cutting, representation is losing as a result of this cost cutting. Black talent is not getting booked. The black shows are being cut left and right. They're being canceled left and right. Black talent is just kind of sitting there. Like Issa Rae with HBO. I know I just talked about her in the Amanda Seales episode last week, but Issa Rae literally has a deal with Warner Brothers Discovery and like HBO. Well, it's Max now. HBO, it's with Warner Brothers Pictures, New Line, HBO, and Max. It's an overall deal, and they're not using her right now. Like they've Insecure has wrapped, and they licensed the show off to Netflix, so you can really just see it whenever you want to. Like the luster that show had is just gone because it's on another platform right now. They have not renewed that like reality show that she had, like the whatever, I'm blanking out what the show's called, but it was like the Los Angeles show. They canceled Rap Shit after 2 seasons. And that Project Greenlight show that she did with like Nujan, I'm blanking how to pronounce his name, Nujanu Kamjani. I'm thinking that's how his name is pronounced. If it's not, apologies. That only had 1 season. We have not heard if it's going to get a renewal, so I'm assuming it's canceled. She's not booked for that. The other projects that she's working on are with other studios. She just announced that they're developing like a buddy comedy with SZA and Keke Palmer, and that's at TriStar. That's at Sony Pictures. So the fact that like talent has to still kind of like talent that has deals are struggling just as much as the people who are like just as much as the talent that is not having deals, that are trying to like get their name in the door. This black talent is struggling to get their names in the door because the industry is cutting costs, and they're saying that black talent is expendable. And it sucks that we have to prove that we are not expendable, that black talent is not expendable, that people want to see this stuff. And we've proven it before in the past. The numbers don't lie. When it comes to the big hits like Black Panther, when it comes to some of the smaller hits like the Will Packer films, and I guess like the Will Packer films of like the 2010s, like quality be damned, the numbers don't lie. The numbers were healthy. So the lack of representation, like the lack of output of that stuff, especially in theaters, and it's noticeable. And it's like the only way that I can see people handle this, and I know I've touched on it before by saying that some people didn't want to see this film because of the lack of representation, is by using your wallets to vote. Like using your wallets when there's black talent in a film, and when it's a good film, using your money to go out to see it, using your time and using your money to go out, if it's a show, go out and stream the show legally, not pirating it, because I feel like there's also that conversation I have to put in which some people say that they support the shows, but they going on, they go on the pirating sites to watch the show or the movie. No, go to the theaters to see the movie. Go to the streaming service, pay and stream the movie and stream the show or the movie, and prove with the numbers that we want this stuff to keep being made when it's being made. And then when it comes to the bad representation, the stuff like the Tyler Perry's, the stuff like the Them TV shows, like those that type of content, don't watch it, or don't watch it legally. Obviously, not trying to endorse illegal viewings of anything, because again, but I'm just saying, I know what y'all be getting down on, so I keep it real. I'm gonna keep it real with y'all. Like, don't, if y'all trying to watch it and support it genuinely, support it legally, support it with your own money, and it's as simple as that. And then we get to like the attractiveness of it all, and I guess the sexiness of it all. People were saying if this movie was sexy, and for me, no, I did not find them white men attractive. I'm so sorry. Like, it's not, and I don't mean that with any offense either. Like, we don't find everybody attractive. Like, it's bound to happen in which someone's gonna find them men hot, and somebody's gonna be like, didn't find them hot. Sorry, but there's people who are saying the men are ugly. Like, some people are trying to really drag them men, and I'm like, that's not necessary. That's not necessary. You could just say that you don't find them attractive and push it. Like, just like how with Jonathan Majors, like, we know that Jonathan Majors is like a nasty person, allegedly, with the court case, because we've seen what happened, But I remember when he was still in good graces before that court case and before that news and stuff came out, when he did the photo shoot in which he was rocking pink and stuff, and the men were like, oh, like he's humiliation ritual, like he is trying to be feminine, da 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 da, and the girls was like, oh, he's hot. Like, the girls wasn't really like, the colorism started like, as soon as he started, like, there's that conversation which is like, oh, like, there's that type of stuff. And even before that, people were saying that man was ugly. But as soon as he started doing, like, as soon as he started trying, like, very quickly trying to become like a rising, like, new film star for Black people, with like Creed 3 and Ant-Man, as bad as that movie was, people started being like, oh, like, he's hot. Like, the colorism started dissipating because people started seeing that he was a rising force, and they kind of had to accept him regardless or not. And then, that case and stuff happened, and he allegedly did the things that he did. I mean, I know my thoughts are he did it, but allegedly, allegedly. And then, people started switching back up. So it's like, attractiveness in the state of the world, it means power, and it means control, but it also doesn't mean anything because it can go with the wind, in all honesty. So, I mean, I didn't find the men attractive, but like, and for me, I didn't find the film sexy, because I feel a lot of people were saying that the film was not sexy. But I feel like the issue is that I feel like the film wasn't trying to be like sexy in a genuine way. I don't think it was trying to be hot in a genuine way. I feel like the only times that it was trying to use like those moments was really in marketing, and that was really it in the marketing. When it was used in the film, in the context of the film, it was used mostly for like a comedic effect. Like, okay, and I feel like I can't even dig into this without getting into spoilers. So if y'all want a spoiler review, let me know. But there are moments in the film in which there's a moment in the film in which Zendaya's character, I can't even bring up that scene. Okay, early in the film, when they introduced Zendaya's character Tashi, there's literally a moment in which the two men are like in awe of her playing, because they find her like not only do they find her attractive, but they also love how she's playing the sport. And it literally in the moment in the scene one of them is like about to get up, and the other dude grabs their friend's thigh to like stop them. Like there's also another scene. Oh god, I can't even talk about the scene on here on YouTube at least because they're gonna demonetize the video, and on the podcast platforms they're gonna pull the video because I can't talk about those things. So I might launch a Patreon. I keep teasing the Patreon. If y'all want me to launch a Patreon, let me know. I'll launch it so I can talk about these things. But there's literally scenes in which any sex appeal that's discussed or that's seen is mostly used in in like a comedic sense. So for me, I didn't find the film hot or sexy because it was like I felt it was hilarious because it was used again in a comedic sense. Now, will other people find it sexy? Yes, and there have been think pieces and stuff about how people have found it sexy, and I think there's some people. I think some people are just really like horny. Like I feel like some people just really like they're just really looking for like they single and they pent up. They looking for something, some sort of outlet to be like yes, and this might have been a movie for them. But for me in the realm of somebody who is while they single, I'm not pent up. Like no, not to say too much, but I be hey, like I've had my fun to say the least. Um, I didn't find the film sexy. I just felt the film it was entertaining, it was hilarious, and it said what it needed to say. And at the end of the day, if you check those boxes, you're a good film. Now there were things I definitely felt like there were things missing, and if I made a film like this, I definitely would have put some things in there. And obviously, people felt like there were things missing too. That's why there's discourse. But I think with the team that they had, with the cast that they had, with the director that they did a good job. And at the end of the day, that's what matters. So I will be seeing y'all in the awards conversations once this film gets snubbed. If the film gets snubbed, I'm still gonna stand by what I said about the film's quality. I mean, like I think it's still gonna nab awards. Would it be an Oscar? That's gonna be another conversation. But if it does, I don't expect the film to be shut out. Now if it do get shut out, my point's still gonna stand, but I'm just gonna act like I ain't said that the film was gonna reach the awards conversation. And if y'all drop it in the comments or whatever, I'm gonna pretend I didn't see it. But that is all I really had. That's my thoughts on the movie and on the discourse. Mainly it was the discourse over the movie. But if you're listening to this on YouTube, be sure to drop a like, be sure to subscribe and turn the notifications on, and let me know in the comments below what you thought about the movie if you've seen it, and what you thought about the discourse if you've seen the discourse. And I would love to have a conversation with you guys in the comments on that. And if you're listening to this on your favorite podcast platform, there's a Q&A function that you can use to let me know what you think about the movie. Especially, I think that's on Spotify, but I think it should also be available on some other platforms as well. So let me know there as well. And that has been it from me. This has been the Cake Radio Show, a CakeDive ZCN Studios podcast production. And I will talk to you guys later. Bye.